Hello, everyone. Welcome to Meticulous Talks on May 6th. I am cursedchords.
And I'm Hithroc.
We're back after 3 weeks. A little bit of some scheduling to do to get this in a good time, but it's somewhat fortuitous because it meant that we have some new cards to talk about that have all been finalized and art done and such.
Yep.
Yeah. I'll admit actually I haven't followed the second prize wheel increment as closely as I did the first one. So it was really only yesterday that I looked at them all on Ponyhead and kind of formulated the first opinions of them. Uh, so fair warning, I might have missed a few things with these ratings, but I did my best to think about them in the context of the core metagame as it exists. I don't know, did you
Yeah.
follow the development process more closely, Hithroc?
No, not really. I have seen some of the cards before, but not all of them.
All right. Yeah, it is a different set of kind of focus than the first increment. There's one purple card. Technically, it's purple orange. But other than that, there's a good number of white cards, good number of blue cards, couple of yellow cards, some orange. I think just one pink card. No, two pink cards. Yeah, but a lot of white cards I noticed.
Yeah.
And some
Al-
some. Sorry, go ahead.
Also a lot of 5 Rex.
Also, a lot of 5 Rex. Yeah.
We now have a 5 Rec for every color.
Yes,
Except purple, which was in the first iteration.
in the first one, yeah. And they're, well, kind of by definition, because of the way that those cards were constructed, they're all pretty interesting cards for things you might decide to do with your deck. Some go in existing archetypes, some don't really. But they're novel, interesting enough that they might spawn new archetypes.
Yeah.
So, with that all out of the way, it is a 13 card release this time, one more than the first increment. And I have some ratings prepared in the usual 1 to 5 scale. As a reminder, these are based on my understanding of and prediction of the development of the core metagame. So that on its own bears some, excuse me, some uncertainty. The core metagame is a little bit unsettled still after the big bans. But
Yeah.
well, let's see. So there's Orange Farm is around. Uh, there's still the sort of Alicorn reanimator thing that I believe is still legal. There's the Celestia purple combo thing. What else? Yellow aggro is still broadly functional, whether you run it with Thorax or Nurturing Nature or the new Fluttershy.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
Nope. I don't think so. But I mean, blue is also fine, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Blue is still. Uh, there's a couple different ways you can do it. Blue Farm is still in an okay-ish spot.
Mm.
And you can still do aggro. So yeah, that's the context that I was building with, at least in my head as I was looking at cards. So let's get to it.
Sure.
And these are going to go in the sort of card number order, which means that we start with Garble. Try me. Cost of 4, 5 requirement, 6 power. Dragon, obviously. When you flip a card for a face-off, an opponent discards a card. When you win a Troublemaker or Problem face-off, if your opponent has fewer cards in their hand than you, score a point. So
I think this card was crazy.
this card seems like it should be really good. Yes. It's got a stat line that oozes farm all over it, and a text ability that oozes farm all over it too. Much face-offs, much flipping, high cost, but high power. Pretty good card to get into play with your Pony of Shadows or whatever. In particular, the pink-orange sort of Chaos Farm variant should have no problem getting the Rex because of Berry Punch, and has card draw built into it. So you you're guaranteed to have more cards in your hand than your opponent. Yeah, seems like it would go very well in there.
I have a different perspective on this card.
Okay.
So think about this. You have this card, you have a Gabby, and you have a stick. It means every turn you can force your opponent to discard at least 2 cards.
Sorry, which Gabby are you talking about?
The one that flip an extra one, ignore the
Okay.
first one.
Spike and Gabby, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 180, you're forcing your opponent to discard 2 cards
At
every
least.
turn.
At
At
least.
least. If you have like more extra flips effects, or the face off is tight somehow. Which with Spike and Gabby is actually easier to do with just regular. Like you can specifically choose a card to tie a face off.
Mm-hmm.
To just flip another card. I think that can be pretty hard to deal with because you'll just never have a hand. Also, they also score a point every time they do it, pretty much.
If you win. I mean, if you're explicitly trying to tie, I think you're introducing the possibility of not winning.
I mean, I guess.
But yes, you're going to win more often than not, probably.
So while this card is pretty good in farm, I think the fact that it works with stick is like pretty big one because stick is a very consistent and very good way to start face-offs.
Also true. Yeah, so that's more of the orange control kind of style.
I mean, it could still be farm.
Well,
Like,
yes. Yeah.
like Spike and Gabby is not unheard of,
Mm-hmm.
and like you can you run stick in a farm deck. Like it could be just a side thing you can do that is really powerful.
For sure. Yeah. And you're right. Yeah. Well, every turn forcing 2 discards, admittedly chosen discards, but still eventually you're going to get to something important.
Yeah, like as long as you make them discard more than 1 card, you're already making them discard more than they draw per turn. So
Mm-hmm.
their
And
hand will run out.
if they're playing cards, which one would assume most decks do,
Yeah.
then they'll run out even faster.
So I think that is really strong. But we will see.
Yeah. With orange decks already being present in the meta, orange there's both orange blue mid range at the most recent online con, and also various farms. It seems, I think, not unreasonable to start this strong and call it a 5.
I don't know. Is it? It's so hard to tell.
5s are, yeah, I understand that.
Like it could be anywhere. Like for me, it is at least a 3, probably a 4, and maybe even a 5.
Okay.
It all really depends on how things turn out, and So let's go for the average. Let's
Well,
go with 4.
average is 4, yes.
Maybe it will not see play at all. Who knows?
I find it unlikely this is not going to see any play. It's such a natural fit in decks that already exist.
But if this dick thing happens, as I described it, then it's definitely a 5.
Mhm. Anamoy asks, both players flips in a face off happen simultaneously. I believe that's true.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll flip. So wait a second. Yeah, you will flip in the event that you've got a chaos effect that goes for more flips. The discard happens. Well,
Um.
it'll be triggers ordered based on the turn player.
So if you have a chaos that flips you an extra card, those both are triggers. You choose on which way to process them, but it doesn't matter because the second card will be flipped during like processing of these triggers, and the next discard trigger will be on the next processing wave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's some room for potential in the case of like multiple waves of chaos, and if the opponent's discard also includes a trigger happening, like say a Spitfire or something like that. But well, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Moving on. Silverstream. I has a bucket. Cost 2, 4 requirement, 2 pink power. In main phase, exhaust this card to choose an opposing resource. And while this card remains exhausted, you control it. And if this card would ready, you can pay 1 to keep it exhausted. It's resource interaction for pink.
Yeah. I don't think pink has any right now, right?
Nothing. This is the first one.
Yeah.
Well, not the first one per se, but the only one in this color.
Yeah.
So, you can either get rid of that resource right away, which is easiest to do if you're in white. You can do the Berry Punch and Orange Swirl for resources if you have a Fashion Overload. Or, in the case that it's a resource that you just really want to have around in general, like a Desert Road or a Rogar's Lair, you'll just have to pay an AT every turn to keep it around. Which might be worth it for a really impactful resource, like one of
I
those.
mean, do you really have to pay AT? Like, if it's not like Silverstream will ready during your ready phase, and you can exhaust her again during main phase, which is like a very short window when you don't control the resource.
Hmm.
So it's only relevant to pay 1 when it's a resource where you do care about that very short window.
Namely,
And
your Troublemaker phase. Yeah.
yeah, pretty much. And I don't know, like, is paying an upkeep of 1 AT worth it to keep a resource? Can you think about a resource that would care about that window so
Well,
much that you would pay 1 AT every turn?
so Grogar's Lair is one. No, actually, no. It'd only be Desert Road if you're planning on doing immediate speed stuff in your Troublemaker phase. Like
Yeah.
if you're playing a BRB style deck and you want to do something in your Troublemaker phase.
Yes.
That's not. That's fairly niche. Let's see. Other resources that would care.
Maybe some attachments. I don't know.
Hmm.
Although attachments generally don't care about the control.
Yeah. So let's
Rarely.
see. It could be some resource that like one of the ones that you exhaust to do a thing, that your opponent can immediate speed exhaust in that brief moment that they have it.
But then you exhaust them, right? because you control it. You control it, you exhaust it, it's exhausted.
But it readies in your ready phase right as you give it back to them.
Hmm.
Now,
I'm
I've
not sure about the timing on this, honestly. I guess it does ready, yeah, because everything ready is at the same time.
right. Now, I haven't
Yeah.
named a particular resource that I care about in this regard yet. And I'm
Well,
not
there's
sure.
snack stand, right?
Oh, yeah, snack stands are
But like
reasonable.
you're paying 180 to, which is free if you keep playing cards, right? That's
Hmm.
but like to deny your opponent one, I guess that's worth it. I don't know if stick is relevant because stick is not immediate exhaust. You just take it back and they can never use it.
Yeah. Oh, do. So if the opponent is yellow, it doesn't matter. Okay. I was gonna say, and they have immediate speed resource removal, but no, it doesn't matter. Only if they have immediate speed resource retirement does it matter.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's for me this card it's hard. Well,
Oh, what if actually this is kind of legitimate?
okay.
What if if it's staff and they've played another staff, then they can get rid of the borrowed one. Oh, but you take the other one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's not a counter on the resource that you take. It's
Yeah.
not flawed. So you just take the staff. I mean, for you, it's good to have another staff because you can retire theirs. That's
Hmm.
kind of resource removal. But maybe that's the idea of the card, right? That's the point. Like you just can deny your opponent one resource, and the upkeep thing is there just in case you really need it.
Yeah. Oh,
Because I
well,
think the card is valid without like the second paragraph, you know.
right. And maybe you just wait a second. Now I'm thinking. Ever a situation where you would want to keep this card exhausted because you can always exhaust this. So
Yeah, during main phase.
yeah, you would know. Yeah, you
So
wouldn't.
it's only during the short window when that is your ready phase and troublemaker phase.
Hmm.
That's the only time where paying that one would change.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. It's not it's not super relevant. So having said all that, care to name a number?
Uh, two,
Two. I
maybe three. Like I think I have belief in the first paragraph
yeah.
in the ability itself.
I have it as a 3 because I think pink decks will be so desperate for resource removal
Well,
interaction that they'll
uh,
want it.
okay, but I point you to blue, right, which was kind of in a similar situation. And yeah, you do see damage control from time to time.
Property damage, but yes.
Property damage, yeah. Oops. Uh, but like, I don't think it's that common to play that card.
Well, my perspective is that the purple Celestia deck is really dependent on resources, or rather, has a lot of really annoying resources that you'd rather they not have. And I think
Uh,
resource removal is getting more important because that deck is more prominent in the meta.
yeah, but like, this card only takes one. You need one silver shrimp per one resource.
Well,
And
one is potentially significant if you can grab it before they start making copies of it.
but they can make copies of your resources. Like it's
Mm,
Stygian doesn't say opposing. No, your.
that's
You can
right.
you can copy any resource.
Still, one's like if one's
It's
all you can do, it's better than nothing.
I don't know. You're paying two to get rid of the one cost resource, or maybe two cost of
Well,
payment.
I mean, if you steal a saddle row, then you're getting AT back from it.
I guess it's just kind of. I'm not sure if Pink that desperate for removing resources, and like Pink probably is not like you see some mono pink decks from time to time, but you usually have your second color, which
Well,
could cover for your resource removal.
it's
Like if you're
it's
playing orange, you're not running this card. You're running Big
oh,
Man.
fair enough. Yes, I'm thinking specifically of the orange of pink blue, where your only other option is property damage, which is like okay-ish most of the time. I mean, it's good enough most of the time. The deck works, but I think might consider having a second interaction option around.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, for what it's worth, I have the card as a 3 for that reason. But I think pink wants it.
I mean, it is a design card, so probably does.
Alrighty.
Next card.
Yes, Antoine. Great Hoarder. 2 cost, 5 yellow requirement, 1 yellow power. When this card enters play, you get a 1 yellow critter friend token, so effectively 2 power. And at immediate speed, retire a critter friend to pay 1 less for your next yellow friend this turn, to a minimum of 1. So I went looking for expensive yellow friends. The beta archive was quite useful for that, by the way, for what it's worth. And well, I guess the first thing is I actually want to. It gave me the idea that I wanted to play with this card in Harmony first, because there are a number of really overpriced yellow cards from way back in the day that I kind of wanted to see a chance of working, maybe. But even in the modern time, my eye was drawn immediately to Critter Choir, which is often good enough at 4 AT, but at anything less than that would be just a ridiculous card to play, and puts critter tokens into play so that you can use them perhaps next turn to play another one. Goldie Delicious, the yellow pink one, creates critter friends. The yellow Fluttershy, the 4 cost Birds of a Feather, goes into play. It immediately creates more critter friends that you can use to perhaps chain another card into play. It seems like you could do some interesting things with this in a particular deck that was built to do those things.
We have a card that says critters don't count towards your home limit, right?
Yes, that's the Thorax tricorn.
Oh, it's tricorn. That's unfortunate. It'd be pretty funny to have like a critter reserve you have in your home, which can be converted into cost reductions at any point.
Well, I mean, not that hard to get pink and white, and then pay 1 AT for Thorax, and there you go.
I mean, I guess, yeah. But it isn't. Uh, makes critters really expendable resources.
Well, broadly
as,
speaking,
as,
yeah.
as they're called in TCG server.
Yeah, see, Anemoy mentions Puckwudgie. I was thinking of Puckwudgie, actually, and it actually does work, right? Even if you're retiring a Puckwudgie to make another Puckwudgie, you've reduced its cost to 2, and if you've already got like 4 or 5 of them out, 2 cost, what, 6 power friend or something? That's not bad.
Yeah.
Also, let's see. There was some yellow purple, the kind of alicorn deck, to the extent that exists. The sort of Twilight and Celestia, the 3 cost one. That's +1 for each other friend you have, I think, or each other friend in play.
Come again?
The yellow purple Twilight and Celestia that has 0 printed power but +1 for every friend in play.
Yeah,
Seems like one potential card that could be played.
maybe.
Yeah. Non-token. Very correct, Prism Light. But, you know, that hasn't stopped it before being pretty good. That deck would not be as critter friend focused. It'd be more focused on your big Alicorn friends. And having cards like Raptor Razor or something similar to just basically feed critter tokens into this as cost reducers.
I think so. While it's fun to think what kind of things you can reduce cost to, I think generally, like most of the yellow decks right now are like aggro that don't play very big friends.
They play cheap
Right.
stuff. Yes.
Cheap stuff, and I think Snack Stand is strictly better for that. And if you build a deck that has like a lot of really expensive stuff that you reduce with this card, like where do you get the critters to feed all of that?
Well, I mean, the most obvious approach is to maybe try to make it a farm deck so that Raptor Razor can generate the critters for you. That's the easiest way to get a big pile of critters into play. Or Birds of
Maybe.
a Feather from Grand Plaza. It's also a very good point. That
Yeah,
card
Birds
can
of a
generate a
Feather is
pile
like
as well.
yeah, and it's also an expensive card itself, which is
Yes,
useful.
it's a good combo chain here. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like you would mostly have to rely on tokens rather than your regular critter friends that just happen to be critters, right?
Yep.
Because they're not expensive usually.
Yeah. Well, so funnily enough, I was legitimately looking. I don't think I actually wrote it down in my list, but there was that. I don't remember the name of the card. Oh wait, no. Sanctuary Patience. There's a 5 cost critter friend that when it is retired makes 3 critter friend tokens.
Yeah, I mean,
It's an interesting, probably not good, borderline okay-ish. Oh, 4. Thank you, Prism Light. But 4 cost. Sorry, but yeah, interesting synergy.
yeah. What's your rating?
I gave it a 3. On the assessment that I think this is going to have to go in a direction that the meta is not currently in right now. I don't know how super competitive it's going to be, but I never want to discount yellow.
Do you want to be pages and do 2.5?
No,
Okay,
0.5s are
fine.
for people who don't want to take risks.
Okay. Good point. Good point. I'll go with 3 as well then.
Alrighty. Which brings us to Scorpion and Star Swirl. Unlikely Friends. 1 cost, 3 wreck in orange and purple, 2 power in orange and purple. Alagai, Unicorn, and Gargoyle. Another unique trait, I believe, for
Yeah.
our pet. Opposing
And I don't think
Dilemmas. Oh, sorry.
we'll see any more Gargoyle cards
Probably not.
ever.
Probably not.
That's the only character that has it. That is a Gargoyle. And that's the only shot of them. Anyway, sorry.
Seems fairly conclusive, yeah. Opposing Dilemmas lose and can't have abilities. Opponents need +2 wild power to confront dilemmas. This is really good anti-dilemma, I think. This means that a dilemma that gets played by the opponent is not going to have any abilities, obviously, and is effectively putting in a problem that's probably relatively easy for you to confront, but not so easy for them to confront. So I would say quite disincentivizes the opponent from playing dilemmas.
Yeah, throws a wrench into trying to do stuff with dilemmas. But Well, so the thing is, since dilemmas is something that your opponent plays, they can choose when to play them and when not to play them, which means if they're playing them, they're probably fairly confident they can confront it,
Yep.
and they're fairly okay with not having abilities in that dilemma.
I mean, yeah. It's gonna require them to do a little bit more planning.
Yeah.
And this card is cost efficient, so there's no reason why you wouldn't just play it out as soon as you could, basically.
Yeah.
And it'll be useful to you.
Yeah.
Um, I was I sorry. I went looking for decks to put this in. That was the part where I kind of was a little bit eh. Um, this like this effect is exactly the kind of thing that you'd expect from a control deck, troublemaker control, or well,
Yeah.
maybe BRB control, and that's not well, broadly speaking, not been a thing for a while. Um, given that this card's cost efficient, it has a bit more of a chance maybe in a purple orange mid range, perhaps, like I used to play with events and such. So there's a chance there, perhaps. Roll tutor orange with restricted section, perhaps. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's maybe that's what I was just talking about. I mean, yeah, that broadly feels like it could work, as based on the same purple orange principle. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Um, I don't know how super confident I would necessarily be in that deck, but it certainly used to work. So probably, and yeah, this is a great card for it. So would have a chance at least.
Maybe. You know what it should say instead? Opponents needs +3 to play dilemmas.
That we had that once upon a time.
Yeah, it was good times.
It it was.
Good times had by all.
I think we've decided to close the book on that page in history. Or anyway. I was gonna give this card a 3.
I will go with 2.
Okay, less confident. Fair enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Prism Line mentions not unique +6 wild for blank dilemmas.
It's true. It's
Yeah,
true.
I guess, and that's a good one. Yeah.
You're gonna have you can have as many copies of it in play as you want. Well, you have to work for more than 3, but yes. Next card. Draw straws. 2 cost, 5 pink requirement. Flipping for 3 at immediate speed. Reveal any number of friends with different names from your hand. Randomly banish one of those cards, and we put one of those cards not banished this way into play.
So, what do you
Okay.
think?
Well, perhaps you care to start us off?
Putting stuff into play is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Has been a thing that people do for a while.
Yeah. There are a number of ways to do it already in core.
Yeah.
This being an event gets around some number of the ways. Well, it's different. Royal family is a friend, +1 is a resource. So, being an event slots into a particular niche there. It's also cheaper than either of those options.
Yeah, but 5 pink.
But 5 pink rec and one of the cards you reveal does get banished.
Which you might not care about. Like, you choose 2 good options, and, like, yeah, one of them you're gonna lose, but
Yep.
you'll get more from your deck.
even
Oh.
potentially, well, like I'm thinking of the tricorn deck as it normally exists. It's entirely possible that you might have some entry friends hanging in around in your hand later that you're not, really bother with losing. So,
Yeah, but then you banish your tricorn and get an entry friend. That's kind of bad.
well, you reveal two tricorns you want to play and your entry friend.
I guess. That was my other question. Would you ever choose more than two? But that's a good point. You would.
Yeah, yeah. So the reanimator thing we've already talked about. The math is obviously for a friend to be good on this, it has to cost more than two, because you're going to be paying two for it regardless. Or you've got to really want to get into play at hasty speed, because this is immediate.
Or it has Rex you cannot make.
That too, yes. While you can make 5 pink rec, and that like all of that broadly says the 3-color friends. All
Yeah.
of that throws this towards reanimator. Yes. Pink orange is also a good point, Prism Light. Expensive stuff in orange and pink. Also a fair point. Also a fair point. That's another possibility. The thing of like I looked at the pink orange farm deck, but the problem there was that like you probably don't want to banish any of your friends. But a more aggressive list, maybe with bigger stuff. See, the thing, Grandpa's, with that instant speed Catajack is that like you're always taking the risk that your Catajack just gets banished.
Yeah, that's kind of unreliable. Like if you.
Like if you're in a situation where you need to play Catajack, I don't know if I would be willing to take the risk that I lose the card from my hand.
Yeah. Like we saw with Babs with instant speak, Jack is pretty good, but like
Mm-hmm.
just use Portal for that. I mean, I guess it's not in play. But I know it's like unreal. Yeah, you might not get Jack at all unless you have two of them in your hand, which is like, yeah, you gotta have two of them in your hand, which
Mm-hmm.
means you gotta have two of them in your deck, or probably three, because if you only have two, it's unlikely you'll have two of them in your hand at the same time. Not very likely. So like it's a lot of things have to align. I don't think this card like is a good trick for some like specific effect
Yeah,
because of the randomness. I think you kind of want to rely on any single card not getting banished. You just
I
want consistent results.
I would tend to agree with that. Yes, admittedly, if you're in a desperate situation,
Yeah, if
y-
it's like you win or
y-
lose
y-
game, you might
yeah,
as well flip a coin for that.
you have at worst a 50% chance. Redeem Starlight is an interesting point. Yeah, throw that into play at the end of the opponent's turn. Well, maybe throw that into play at the end of the opponent's turn. If it's a 50% shot, that might be worth it.
C-pop is such a good point. It's a 50% randomness card. Actually, it's 100% randomness card.
Oh, if you just if you just reveal one card from your hand, that's an interesting thought.
Like you can guarantee a point, like if you really need it.
2 cost for a point. That's well, 2 cost for a point and banish a card, banish a
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah. I mean, if you really need it, might as well, right?
Yeah, I mean 2 cost for a point is generally right at the fair margin. So that's a point to be made. Yes. I gave this card a 2. on the assessment that there are already all other things that do what it does as far as Reanimator goes, and so I don't think it's necessarily going to make the cut.
I'll give it a 3.
Okay.
It has tricks in it.
I mean, that's a good point. Very good point. Next up, Lunch Break. 4 cost, 5 blue rec, flipping for 5 in the main phase. At the end of your turn, lose your action tokens, then take an extra turn after this one, banishing this card. So this is one of the cards I did speculate a little bit on before making the prep for this stream.
Okay. Not justified.
Well, broadly, that it is very expensive.
It is a little bit
It
expensive.
is expensive. Enough so that I don't think an aggro deck wants to run this, because it probably won't have the 4 AT floating to really effectively use this. And a control deck probably doesn't want to run this, because it's not going to get enough benefit out of the extra turn to make the 4 AT worth it. But it was pointed... Sorry.
Yeah, what was pointed out?
But it was pointed out to me that a farm deck might appreciate this quite a bit. If you got it set up with some troublemakers pending, that you can just flip them up, farm them again, do an extra confront, you might be looking at 3+ points off of those 4 AT. That sounds somewhat reasonable.
But consider this, you can also copy this event.
You can. It's a little
You
tough.
need a lot. You need a lot of stuff, but yeah, you can do it.
You can do it.
And you will, in fact, get 2 extra turns.
That's true. You will...
You will lose your action tokens only once.
You will lose your action tokens only once. That is very true.
Royal Tutor combo 100% runs 2 copies of this in core, over double take. And if you let them copy it, it's GG.
Yeah, I mean, given that that deck already runs Magic Instructor, and
I mean, if there was a deck to copy this card,
yeah,
that'll be the one.
how does that deck get to 5 blue? You do. I mean, I assume you just make it work somehow. Speedbone Rush. Sure, yeah, that works. Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah, and the deck has no concerns about spending 480. Like 480. What is even 480?
Yeah. Okay. That makes that's an interaction I missed, and that's gonna bump up my rating.
Yeah, I think most of the value in this card is either in farm or in copying. But I cannot think of any other deck that would copy this card other than the Royal Tutor deck.
Is it enough to take it up to 4? That's the question.
Royal Tutor is pretty good.
It is pretty good, and I'm forecasting it being relatively prominent in the metagame.
Good. I love the deck.
I mean, as do I, frankly. I think it's one of the top contenders for what I would play at Everfree as well, at the moment, for what that's worth. So perhaps it does go to 4, being such a prominent. Well, whatever. Sure, 4. That's what I said. You?
Sure. I'll also go with 4.
Okay.
But just
Oh.
other comments. Extra turn is not something completely new, right? We had the
Yes.
Dr. Hooves.
Yeah, it is a blue thing, actually. It has been established that it's part of blue's color identity.
Yeah. And Dr. Hooves didn't break the meta, so maybe this card won't either. But,
well, Dr. Who's was also incredibly terrible.
It was free. This one makes you lose all of your action tokens. Not because of the effect, but because you have to play it. It's such a huge cost for an event.
Yeah. So, Raccoon Rampage. 2 costs, 3 rec, flips for 5. At immediate speed, choose any number of traits. For each trait chosen this way, each player. Oh, sorry, yes, sorry, errata. Give me a second. Name a trait you haven't named with this card. Then each player retires one of their resources with that trait. Repeat this process any number of times. Okay, so
Yeah, they
important.
changed it so you cannot name the same trait.
Yeah, that was the first question I was going to ask, so thank you. So, a problem with this card, I was looking through decks, is a lot of resources have the trait line resource asset. A lot of the resources that see play. Pinky Sense is a condition. Desert Road is a location. Staff is an artifact, obviously, and unique. But other than that, like everything is resource asset. I was shocked actually that Saddle Row Storefront is not a location; it's an asset. But whatever.
Well, I guess it is an asset.
I mean, it is, yeah. So that is to answer the question that Prism Light asked up top. That's how this isn't Meadowbrook. Is that it's such a good chance that your opponent will have multiple resources that are all resource asset that they'll be able to cover their important resources with.
Yeah.
But regardless, this is still, if your opponent has 2 resources, this is almost certainly get rid of both of them for 2 AT, which is not bad for sure.
It also doesn't help against decks like Royal Tutor that runs a lot of copies of the same resource. Because they just retire one.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, no, they'd have to retire 2 of the same 2 copies.
why?
Well, you name both of the traits that card has.
Oh, it has more than one?
Yeah, all resources are a resource and
That's not a trait,
something
that's a
else.
type.
Oh, well, it's in the trait line.
Yeah, but so is event. And
I
like
see.
events are
Well, okay, fair enough.
that's a type. That's
Well, all right, fair enough. Then yeah, that does make it a bit worse. Then yeah.
like if a resource has more than one trait, which is pretty rare, I think.
Well, unique ones.
Yeah, it's usually unique plus something. I don't think you have
Uh,
just 2 traits generally.
are there some artifacts that are also accessories?
Maybe. But yeah, either way, it's not common at all. And but yeah, if that happens, if they have multiple copies of a resource that has 2 traits.
Yeah.
Oh, I know which traits could a lot of resources have. Chaotic is a trait.
Yeah, that's one.
Like Fernando is definitely has chaotic plus something. It's easier to find resources with like those kinds of traits than
Right.
just 2 traits.
The I'm forgetting, and this is Harmony, but is that Trenderhoof band that gives everything unique?
Nope.
And does it apply only to friends or
No, it's all of the cards, including problems
okay?
and mains. For mains, it's irrelevant, but for problems, it's very relevant, or
Okay.
was very.
So that's
So,
Harmony, but that's a thing.
I wish he never gets banned. That card breaks things, and I love that. I like breaking things. Do you enjoy flipping a problem or having one problem in your hand?
I enjoy the fact that it's a thing that could happen.
Yeah. I think it can't be anymore. I think it got fixed, which is very sad, but we cannot have nice things.
Yeah. So with that knowledge in my head now, that means it is actually significantly less likely to hit multiple resources, unless we're talking about multiple different kinds of resources. But in the most common situation that I'm thinking about in this meta, you are going to be looking at a guy who has multiple copies of the same resource in play.
I think at best discarded a sideboard card. At best.
Yeah.
So I don't think this card can be higher than 3.
Yeah. I do have it as a 3. I had it as high 3, maybe 4, but yeah, low 3, perhaps, I guess now.
Yeah, I would agree. Like yellow is not uh it's not lacking resource removal either.
Yeah, and Grandpa's pointed out that this restricts you from running resources. There are certainly a number of yellow decks that I found in my archive that didn't have any resources. Well, dilemmas, but they don't count. Um, so I don't think it's as big of a deal for yellow.
Yeah, I also noticed that SGP points out that this card is immediate. But what I mean, I don't think that's that big of a deal, honestly. Like, yeah, Beavers was really good in Adventure because it was immediate.
And lemon hearts, for that matter.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about Lemon Hearts. People used to just run Lemon Hearts. Wow. I mean, I guess, but like, Staff plus Shield is like it's against a very specific deck, which only reinforces my point that this card is a sideboard card. I don't think it's the main inclusion. That's my belief.
Admittedly, legitimate in that point. Yes. Shield is
So,
Shield's an artifact, as is Staff, but Staff's unique and Shield's not. So.
yeah. Is Shield not unique?
I'm not sure.
I think Shield is unique.
Shield's unique, so right. So is it an asset then? That's the
It's an
difference?
artifact. No, yeah, you cannot dismiss. Oh no, you name unique and artifact, and they have to get rid of the shield and then stick
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
because though they both have 2 traits.
Yeah. Okay.
In fact, that's the only reason this works. If shield was not unique, it'll be worse because you have to name artifact and unique, and they remove the stick, and now they don't have unique resources anymore. So in a way, it's really good for this card that shield is unique.
Sorry, don't you just name unique first?
If you name unique first, well, I don't know. They can. That doesn't say which order you would have.
Remember that we're looking at the revised wording
Oh, there's. Oh, yeah.
in
Repeat
chat,
this
not
process.
the.
Yeah, I forgot. I see. Yeah, okay. Fine. Still free though.
Oh no, yeah, just the standard hypotheticals. Okay, moving on. We are back. Cost 2, 3 rec, flips 4. Chaotic event with the chaos text. When this card is flipped, you can put it into your hand and flip something else. And at immediate speed, you get to put a non-epic troublemaker from your discard pile into play face up. Seems like a very straightforward white control card.
Yeah, my problem with this card in particular is that Exposed already feels this area, and I think much better.
Because it can hit epic cards?
It can hit epic cards, and you can portal it, can make picture frames out of it. So, uh, admittedly, this card has a really good chaos text because you just get it. It's pretty nice. Yeah, exposed is 2-color, but like,
It's
what
it's
other color are you gonna run with? What?
it's only one of its 2 colors. But like,
Yeah.
I mean, Hithroc is. I should point out that in Hithroc's experience, certainly in my experience playing against him, Exposed is essentially an immediate speed card.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it is immediate. I mean, it is a single color, but that's fine. But I think if you're running purple, which I think you do, exposed will just feel the spot much better.
True, not in core. That's a good point. So used to thinking of Portal. Fair enough. Very fair.
There's hooves.
There's who's, but now you're talking about 5 rec.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Okay, this is 3 rec. It's not like, yeah, I guess
it's
5
it's a
rec
very
will lose.
different comparison compared to 1 purple and white exposed, right? Now, admittedly, you're right. I don't see this in a mono white deck. This is like you're gonna play purple white, probably purple orange white was my thought.
Maybe, yeah.
But true enough, mono white control exists as well, with Chrysalis, presumably.
White orange? I don't know. Well, I guess we will see. I'm not super sold,
I
but
am
it's
admit,
nice to have monocolor
yeah,
options.
no,
That's the
no,
only thing.
I agree. I'm not super sold on this either, because I think the deck that seems like it would shape up around this seems like it would be weak to farm and to the Celestia combo as well. So I was gonna give this a 1.
1? No, I wouldn't go that low. I would give it at least a 2.
Okay. I'm not saying this is a bad card. Fine card.
Yeah,
Just
yeah. I'm glad it's there.
yeah.
Maybe it will complement exposed. Like, you play exposed and this card. Not a
I
bad card, right? At the one. Well, because our
no.
ratings are not.
Yeah. No. It's not a card can be great and be a 1 if there's no deck around it.
Yeah,
Thank you. Yes.
we don't rate cards based on their pure, like, in a vacuum. I
Alrighty.
think in the vacuum, this is a fun card. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And admittedly, I should point out, like, the game impact style ratings should play into meta impact, because of course if a card's that good, that raises its probability of forging an archetype around itself. Um, so
Yeah.
anyway,
Next card.
next card. Citywide Shield. 1 cost, 3 rec, flips 5. Place to your home. If a non-token friend or troublemaker would enter play, wasn't played from its owner's hand, banish that friend or troublemaker instead. Banish replacing the would enter play, so the card
Yeah.
doesn't actually enter play.
So the way I read this card is that this card has way more text than it should have, because what it really says, they can't play cards that not from their hand. That's what it says, actually.
Well,
Because it's the same thing.
it's not exactly the same thing in
I
practice.
mean, okay, I can bring Grogger from my discard pile to banish it instead, sure. But like otherwise, you're not gonna play a friend from your discard pile knowing that it will get banished immediately, like without doing anything. It's the same thing as you not being able to do that thing.
Yes.
That's what this card says. You can't do
And is there any way to force your opponent to do it?
that. I
Like
mean,
actually you can. No. Royal family is an optional thing.
there is Troublemaker Starlit Glimmer that puts things into play from the bench.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there are things. Yeah. Yeah. There are yeah,
Yeah,
anything that portals your
or
opponent's stuff turns into removal.
I guess, yeah, that's a good point.
So this card's really cheap and well, relatively low rec. It is not going to be hard for a blue deck to sideboard this in a matchup where it will be useful, which is broadly speaking against Reanimator in core and well other things, but that's the biggest thing that comes to mind.
How does it kill tokens? It specifically says no token friend or troublemaker.
That it does.
Specifically excludes them.
Like
Probably for that reason.
good point. Yes. Admittedly, the non-token can be hard to see sometimes. I know I've missed it on cards before. So.
Remember that Discord troublemaker that lets you play your opponent's cards?
Yes.
This card banishes them. Because you don't own those cards. It specifically says own.
From its owner's hand. Fair
So
enough.
if you play your opponent, I think there was another card that lets you play opposing cards.
Yeah.
It was
Oh.
printed recently.
That Sakura that lets you like
stash things.
Yeah. Those aren't in your hand, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're private and banish zone. Not that Zikora ever sees play, but it's fun to think about.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I think this is a fair inclusion in blue decks. I think Cadence can consider it probably, and that's Cadence Blue, obviously. And other things. I think it is a and it's good to have this card around as a check on decks that do the thing this card stops them from doing. So I think it's a good solid 3.
Sure. For adventure, it might be more.
Oh, for adventure, there's a lot more of this kind of shenanigans going on. Yes. So, and in adventure, there's a lot more blue decks around that would be willing to run it as well.
You say it's an anti-portal tech, but at the same time, the portal turns into a banishment. So it's like kind of double-edged sword right there.
It upgrades the opponent's portals when used on your friends, but downgrades them when used on the opponent's friends.
Yeah. So you will not get portaled Catajack anymore, which is good.
Admittedly, the bodyguard triggers still go off because the thing does still leave play first.
Yes. But yeah, cool card. I like it.
Yeah, it's interesting. For what it's worth, these the last 4 cards we're gonna get through, plus this one, I think these are some of the really cool effects in this set.
But I still think the strongest card out of them all here is Garble.
I don't disagree, actually. So anyway, Crystal Mind Cage. Free cost, free requirement. 5 flip is an accessory that goes on a friend unless it wasn't played, then it gets retired. You control the attached friend, and it can be played from the discard pile by retiring a non-token friend as an additional cost. So, there's a Crystal Games card that I thought of immediately on seeing this. Also costs 3, also flips for 5, also plays on a friend and says you control the attached friend. That being Pony Charm. That one's got 5 requirement. So this one's got 2 less requirement than that. Same cost. Has the caveat that it can't be that it has to be played, but has the benefit that you can get it out of your discard pile.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what differentiates it from Pony Charm. When I saw this card, I also immediately thought of Pony Charm, and that's. But it is a Harmony card, and this is in core, and it has. Yeah, it has this like extra text that you can recurse it basically, not too expensively. And you can also keep juggling opposing friends. Like you can pay free if you have two of them. One
Hmm.
in discard pile, another one in play. You take control. You pay free to retire that card,
Hmm.
and
Somewhat
get
expensive, but
free for removal is a little bit expensive, but it is repeatable.
yeah, it's a little expensive, but that's about on par with what white generally expects to be paying for removal.
Oh, this is
Especially
a
because it's
design card? I didn't know that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Why doesn't it say so like Silverstream?
Credit where it's due. Yes, this is Histogram's designer card.
Oh, cool. Does this sort of going away
Yes.
end of control?
Oh, I
Oh,
see. Okay. Yeah. So
I'm
there
not
will.
sure what animal is asking.
Well, he's asking if the resource gets dismissed or something. Does the friend revert control? And I mean,
Oh,
uh,
yes, yes.
of course it does, right? Yeah. At least I think so. If that's not the case, Animoy, please let us know. Like I think, um, so back in the day, Pony Charm obviously never saw play, but at the same time, in the present day, there are cards that are much more impactful to take control of from the opponent's side. Um, so I can see it potentially being a lot more relevant in the current day with the synergy that you describe and the lowered requirement, and some better, bigger friends being around these days. I would want to have a look at it, at least.
Now, the real play is to play this on your own friends, so your opponent doesn't take control of them.
That is a valid play, because this is a newest modifier and would have the. Is it? It works because of timestamp ordering, or
I actually don't know if it works. Because for timestamps, the triggers that take things temporarily would always win.
hmm,
Because they happen later after you have this card.
right?
But it might be some dependency shenanigans going on. I don't know. Either way.
Probably not a scenario we'll see very often.
Yeah,
So,
don't really have to know about that one.
have you a number?
Um, I am not convinced at all, so I'll give it a 1.
Okay, fair enough. I gave it a 2
Cool.
on the assumption that some experimentation would happen.
I mean, repeatable removal is interesting thing to think about,
Mhm.
which is, I think, the biggest thing that this card brings to the table. Just controlling friends is usually not
Admittedly,
really relevant.
it is an accessory, and there are ways to discount accessories in White.
Yeah, and yeah.
Hats as the removal deck is an interesting way of thinking about it, but
Well, we have petrified. Oh, that might not be an accessory though.
that's a condition.
I see. Well, in Harmony, we had I don't remember what the card is called, but it had the spike.
Oh, dressed up.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That sometimes is used as a removal.
It's true. Yeah.
Oh, and that
Anyway,
one is also an accessory. Yeah. Anyway,
anyway, keeping going on the White. Latest greatest creation, 2 cost, 5 rec, flips for 4, is unique and goes to your home. In the main phase, exhaust this card and discard a card to search your sideboard for a card, reveal it, put it into your hand.
so white is the sideboard searching color now.
I suppose. First card we've ever had that does that. That allows anyone to interact with a sideboard in any way.
Yeah.
So I'm fully prepared for people to tell me I'm wrong because I haven't played with any sideboard searching cards in other games before. So it seems to me Like, what I would want to use this card for is if I was playing a combo deck, I would put one copy of my combo pieces in the sideboard so the opponent can't touch them until I decide to get them to go off on my turn.
The ultimate tech against Destiny Drain.
Yes. Is that right? Or am I being stupid? Oh,
I mean,
Grandpa
yeah,
says
you can do
that's
that.
okay. Okay. Is there something else you would use this for?
Uh, I mean, not just combo pieces. Why not go toolbox? You literally have a toolbox of 5 cards. You can get at any time. Especially useful against when you have like, oh, you're playing Student 6 main with a Buck Bowl championship start. You have no idea what deck they're playing just on that. So you might not know what to sideboard, and this card can be useful in that scenario.
Yeah, I had thought about that. If you have a card that's a single copy in your deck, you can just put it in sideboard and now you have 3 copies. Or
Yeah, and if you know what exactly what your opponent is playing, you sideboard this card.
mhm. Well, broadly so, yes.
uh, but I think toolbox is the most applicable scenario. Like combo is gonna do combo things, but I think toolbox is like more common thing to have in the meta, I guess.
Well, yes. Well, Toolbox and Core hasn't really been a thing. But I suppose now we have an enabler for it.
Yeah.
So and it's been a strong archetype in any format that's allowed it to exist, basically forever. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Another way you
Ah,
can think about this card is it's basically a tutor. It's like finding something in your deck, except it's not in your deck. So you can think of it as like every pony's PFF, you know?
hmm except again, yeah, you're finding a card that is guaranteed to be there. Like the
Yes,
opponent is completely unable of taking away your ability to search for that card, except
yeah,
for getting rid of this resource when it's in play.
and I mean tutor cards have seen play before.
hmm Yeah, Grandpa's brings up a good point about Reanimator, in that you can discard the thing you want to reanimate and pull out a tool to get it back all in one go. Admittedly, though, and this actually comes back to the point earlier about immediate speed resource removal, because that does require you to put one of your Reanimator tools in your sideboard. And if this card gets removed as soon as it goes into play, then, well, it's in your sideboard where you can't touch it.
Yeah, it's your opponent can touch it, but you can't either.
So,
Like
worth
if this was an
considering.
event, that would be much safer. But that's
Yeah.
why it's not.
hmm So, tip for anyone who thinks they might be going against this: immediate speed resource removal. Not that that was a particularly non-obvious tip, but yeah.
Only there was a card that in yellow was an immediate resource removal. Sad that yellow doesn't have that.
At the moment, it does not. That is true.
uh,
So, I'm going to give it a 3.
uh, I'll give it a 2. Maybe in the future that will change, but right now I think it's a 2. And I will be happy to be proven wrong. And I would also love to see more cards that interact with sideboard.
Now that we've proven it's a thing that we're willing to do.
Yeah.
Okay. Next along, Proctorate. Cost 1, 3 requirement in orange, flips for 4, goes to your home. If you would score 1 or more points while a player has no cards in their deck, score that many points plus 1 instead. And at immediate speed, exhaust this card to put the top 2 cards of a player's deck into their discard pile.
It's a mill card.
It's a mill card. We haven't had one of those in a while.
Ah, we had that orange card that mill things.
Which? Oh, Spike?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a reasonable point. I don't think anyone, to my knowledge, used it for that purpose. But it's true. Exists.
We also have Sweetie Belle
Pretty well. Yes.
in
Which
DE.
which goes to my point I was about to make that white orange is the mill combo colors, and that's probably where that would go. I didn't mean combo as in capital C combo. I meant
Yeah.
those are the two colors that are the mill colors. Um,
Uh, so seeing that this card is uncommon, I have concerns about limited.
about limited.
Poor limited.
That's
Imagine pulling Sweetie Belle and this card. It's just
oof.
nobody can win.
That is an interesting point. Yeah,
Thankfully, price set is a small set, so you don't really have packs of Priceville.
right. But it
But
could end up in a cube someday.
yeah, yeah, I think unlimited this card could be crazy. We're not talking about limited.
We're not. You can have multiple copies of this card if you wanna mill real fast. Um, I think it's super cool. I don't know if it necessarily goes into anything pre-existing. Maybe orange. Maybe orange. Orange.
I think this might go well with handy cards.
Oh, mm, perhaps. That's a thought. Yes.
Like you kind of do mid range kind of thing, but you raise this card to mill their deck.
Hmm. And then this is your win con once they're milled out.
Yeah. It's fairly decent answer to versus chaos control farm. Yeah, you can.
I mean, my experience with Chaos Farm is that they don't set up their deck as much. They just have a lot of chaos stuff in their deck. So there's as much chance of them hitting a chaos effect 3 cards deep as it is 1 card deep. But I mean, if you can reliably mill them out, that's very good.
Yep. Do we have many cards that draw your opponent cards? Because drawing is also a way of milling. Does this work on prospecting? It doesn't because you don't score any points. This card says if you would score
1 or
1 or
more.
more points,
Eh,
scoring 0 points is not scoring points.
that's unfortunate, frankly. Sorry, what was the question you were going to ask?
Do I have many cards that draw your opponent cards? Because that's also a way of milling.
It is. Um,
You can portal their Pinkie Pie.
yes. There are some ways of doing it, I think.
There are definitely ways of doing it in Harmony,
Yeah.
but in Core,
Well, yes, in Harmony there are.
in Harmony, I
That's
think there's Lyra that draws both you and your opponent 2 cards. But I
mhm.
think there are other ways. Like I've been looking into this long time ago
uh
because I was going to make a mill deck where your opponent draws their entire deck.
I mean,
But either way,
yeah, I was gonna give this a 2. I think it's really cool, but I don't know if there's necessarily the deck there yet. I'm happy to be proven wrong though.
yeah, same to be honest.
Alrighty. Which brings us to the last card. Flash B Queen, our epic for the set. Always gotta have one of those. 5 power, 0 points, epic troublemaker. At the end of each player's troublemaker phase, if this troublemaker wasn't challenged this turn, banish the top card of that player's deck beneath this card. This card has +1 power, its point value increased by 1, each card banished beneath it. So, The stat line is 0 points for 5, and 1 point for 6, and 2 points for 7, 3 points for 8, etc. along. 0 for 5 and 1 for 6 are both common troll troublemaker stat lines. 2 for 7 is a common farm troublemaker stat line. And then we go off into power levels that don't usually exist, and so there's no real precedent on those.
Yeah.
If the card flips on your turn and your opponent doesn't challenge it, then you will have first crack at it as a 2 for 7 if you're a farming deck, which is a pretty good number to go
Why
for
2
generally.
for 7?
It will, I mean, it'll trigger at the end of your troublemaker phase and at the end of their troublemaker phase, right?
Yeah, but it has to. Like, what do you mean by flips on your turn?
Well,
Without.
like it flips over at the start of your troublemaker phase.
Yeah, we'll have 5 power and 0 points.
Yeah, and so at the end of your troublemaker phase, it'll go to 6. It'll go to 6 and 1.
Oh, yeah, I see. You wait a turn. That's what you mean.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I guess. Yeah. It's kind of. Isn't it a bit too slow for farm? Like 6 to 1 is 7 to 2, I guess is fine. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
good point. Yeah.
yeah, and
But that's only if they don't challenge though. They might just challenge it.
yeah, as a at a 6 and 1, they might challenge it. In which case you might just leave it up. 6 and 1 is a fine troublemaker stat line.
Yeah. And if you keep it challenging yourself, will not be going up very much.
Mm-hmm. Try me, rock turret, this prism light. Makes sense. And this is a way. Well, if your opponent doesn't challenge it, then this will keep milling them.
Okay, so here's the mean play.
Was that mean with
Build
an
them
M or
turn
with an
1.
E? Or sorry, with an M. Mean or meme?
Mean. Both, yes, actually. The answer
Okay.
is yes.
Okay, fair enough.
You play both of them turn 1. And then neither you or your opponent can catch up with the increasing power at the start of the game. None of you can confront the problem because there's troublemakers in the way, so you always get 2 AT. And then you just get enough AT to play something like, I don't know, like scores you points from the troublemaker or defeats it immediately.
Hmm. Kind of interesting.
So that's my meme. And meme. Mono purple with Tempest. Find this on turn 1. Protected at all costs. Yeah, so when I saw the ramping up points thing, I thought about that immediately. I was like, oh yeah, you can score 15 points off of this if you really want to. But I don't know if can actually happen. Maybe it can. But
Um.
Kuronis make this really hard.
Well, so the obvious way to make it possible that occurs to my mind, like Raptor Razor is the equal a troublemaker card. So that allows you to get up to wherever it's at and probably have a chance.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got something that's boosting those critters. Obviously, yeah, you're gonna have to wait 15 turns for it to get there, and your opponent's got plenty of chances to deal with it before then, even just challenging it to stop it from growing.
Okay, no, I have it. I got it. We're in adventure, right? Play this
Sure.
card turn 1.
Okay.
You're playing against an aggro deck. It doesn't work against control.
Okay.
Right? It's an
There
aggro deck.
are enough of those in Adventure.
Yeah, and they're gonna play dilemmas, right? And they're gonna do double face-offs. But you don't care because you have Joe in play. That stops the problem from being replaced.
Okay.
Oh, I think it still replaces it when it's solved. Woohoo. So what I'm saying is we need a card that just stops a problem being replaced ever.
That's called Remix Master.
But she Can she? Oh yeah,
It's real expensive.
yeah. There we go. There we go. There we go. That works. That works. That's what we do then. That's perfect.
Sounds fun. Sounds like a meme, but sounds fun. So in core, I thought this would. I mean, farm decks usually try every epic to at least see if they're okay-ish, and so likely to get at least some experimentation. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah,
But I was gonna give it a 2.
I'll give it a 3. I have belief.
Okay, okay,
I
fair,
think the
fair
fact
enough.
that it gets to 7 to 2, basically in your next turn, I think that's pretty big. Because I think you can just load it into a farming deck and not care about that.
Yeah, admittedly, the farm decks right now are. I don't want to say full of epics. We know there's no such thing as too many epics, but they already have sufficient epics, shall we say?
But what is sufficient ethics thing you speak of?
Well, they win, so I would say there's at least consideration that they might have the troublemakers they need already. But yes, never bet against Orange stuffing more troublemakers in their deck.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So that's the mini set.
Took us a while to get through it.
What, 90 minutes? 13 cards? That's about at our normal rate for reviewing cards.
And I don't think it is cursed.
What
Well,
is that? That means it would take us like 15 hours to get through the whole set?
yeah. 24-hour stream. Let's go. 24-hour stream challenge. That was one of the stupid ideas I had for first April. Good thing we didn't do that one.
That would have been something. But anyway, that's that. What do you think of the set in total?
Not enough Trixie and not enough purple, but I liked some of the cards.
Fair enough. That's a pretty normal response. Yeah, I thought the cards. So let me see. The first prize wheel was very much, at least felt a lot like, the kind of targeted buffs to the underrepresented colors. This one feels a lot like novelty.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
It's more like a playground, a card design playground.
Mhm.
Well, the other one was like a meta answer.
So that's good. More of this, please.
Yeah.
That will, sorry, bring us to the end of our stream this week. We're likely going to have a little bit more scheduling stuff to consider. We'll go over that. So we'll let you know when the next stream is going to be as well. But it's been wonderful to spend the morning and or afternoon with you. And for that time, I have been cursedchords.
And I've been Hithroc.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye.